Xylo hovered in his stealth craft, just outside the Earth's atmosphere, camouflaged against the vast backdrop of space. His gaze was fixed on the blue-green planet below, his mission clear in his mind but his understanding of his target, admittedly, less so. Commander Xylo, all systems are green for the descent. Shall we proceed with the infiltration? The voice of Teller, his ship's AI, broke the silence. Yes, Teller, initiate the cloaking sequence and set course for Mars. Let's see what these humans are all about. Xylo responded, his voice a mixture of curiosity and disdain. As the craft silently glided towards Mars, Xylo reviewed the briefing files once more. Humans, a species still confined to their own solar system, were technologically primitive compared to the Cygnians. Yet they had something that the Empire needed: unclaimed territorial space and abundant resources. Landing discreetly on the outskirts of Olympus Mons, the bustling economic hub of Mars, Xylo stepped out into a sea of colors and noise. His advanced sensors adjusted, cloaking him not only from sight but also making him appear human to any who might notice him. He walked through the market streets, observing. Humans of all shapes and sizes mingled, bartered, and socialized with an ease that seemed almost chaotic to the structured mind of a Cygnian. Try this, off-worlder. Best in the galaxy! A vendor shouted, thrusting a sample of some local cuisine towards him. Xylo took it, his disguise altering his facial features to mimic a polite smile. He tasted it. The flavors were intense and unfamiliar but not unpleasant. Delicious, he lied smoothly, nodding thanks as he moved on, his internal systems disposing of the alien foods safely. As he wandered, Xylo's initial scorn gradually gave way to a begrudging fascination. The humans' emotional expressiveness, their art, music, and even their daily interactions displayed a depth he hadn't been trained to expect. They were passionate, vibrant, alive in ways that his own people were not. He found himself in a small park, where children played under the watchful eyes of their parents. A little girl, chasing a fluttering piece of paper, stumbled and fell. Xylo instinctively moved to assist her, but a woman, presumably her mother, reached her first. It's okay, sweetie, just a little fall, the woman soothed, brushing off the dirt. She plastered a bright, reassuring smile on her face, kissed the child's forehead, and helped her up. Xylo stood, frozen, watching the scene. In his culture, physical comfort was seldom given. Efficiency ruled supreme, emotions were secondary, almost vestigial. Yet here, this simple act seemed to heal the child more effectively than any medical device he knew. Are you okay, sir? A voice asked. Xylo turned to see a man, regarding him with a mix of concern and curiosity. You seemed a bit lost there for a moment. Xylo recovered quickly, his training taking over. Yes, thank you. Just enjoying your planet's atmosphere. It's quite different from where I come from. The man laughed, a rich, warm sound that made Xylo's audio sensors adjust for its depth. I bet it is. First time on Mars? Something like that, Xylo replied, deciding to use this opportunity. I'm a traveler of sorts. I'm trying to understand what makes humans unique. You could say that's a lifelong quest. The man chuckled. But if you really want to know what makes us tick, you should see how we live. How we survive, thrive, and keep pushing forward despite the odds. Xylo nodded, intrigued despite himself. Perhaps I will. Good. The man clapped him on the back with surprising strength. Enjoy your stay. As Xylo continued his exploration, his mission's parameters began to blur. The data he collected, audio, visual, experiential, started to form a different picture from the one his commanders had painted. The day turned to evening, and Xylo found himself at a local assembly where a celebration was taking place. Music filled the air, a lively tune that compelled even the stiffest onlookers to tap their feet. Xylo, ever the observer, noticed how music seemed to be a universal language here. It drew smiles, laughter, dancing. It wasn't just sound, it was communication. A young woman, noticing his isolation, approached him. You're not from around here, are you? She asked, her eyes bright with a friendly curiosity that seemed devoid of suspicion. No, I'm from far away, Xylo admitted, his standard answer now feeling worn and inadequate. Well, faraway man, would you like to dance? She offered her hand with a smile that was somehow as inviting as the music. Xylo hesitated, then accepted, allowing himself to be drawn into the dance. As they moved to the rhythm, Xylo felt something shift within him, a warmth, a genuine connection, not just an undercover assignment. The celebration continued late into the night, and Xylo, for the first time in his long service, found himself hoping it wouldn't end. Not yet. He had much to learn, much to understand. And perhaps, just perhaps, much to change. Xylo spent weeks integrating into human society, moving from Mars to the floating habitats of Europa, each experience embedding him deeper into the human way of life than he had ever anticipated. The cold, expansive oceans beneath Europa's icy surface were teeming with life, both human and marine, in a delicate balance of coexistence. Welcome to Europa, Xylo. Not many outsiders choose to come to our little water world, Mira said, greeting him at the dock with a warm smile. She was a marine engineer, her life dedicated to the habitats that sustained human life here. I'm interested in how humans adapt, Xylo replied, watching the light play off the ice above, creating a cathedral-like ambience around them. Well, you've come to the right place, Mira laughed, leading him through the complex network of underwater tunnels that connected the community. Adaptation is what we do best. As they walked, Mira shared stories of Europa's history, of human perseverance, and the technological marvels that made underwater living possible. Xylo listened, his data banks filling with stories, but his mind increasingly preoccupied with the humans themselves, their resilience, their ingenuity, their passion. You seem very bonded to this place, Xylo observed, noting the pride in Mira's voice. It's home. And when you have to fight for every inch of livable space, you either bond with it, or you leave, Mira replied, stopping to face him. What about you, Xylo? What's your home like? Xylo paused, momentarily caught off guard by the question. It's different. Efficient, orderly. There's a place for everything and everything in its place. Sounds lonely, Mira said softly, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and sympathy. It can be, Xylo admitted, surprised at his own candor. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert on Mira's communicator. We have a situation in the southern sector. Pressure fluctuations in one of the main tunnels. I need to go, Xylo. Do you want to come see how we handle a crisis? Curious, Xylo nodded, following her as they hurried through the habitat. At the control center, technicians were bustling about, monitoring data screens and issuing commands. Mira dove into the fray, her expertise evident as she coordinated responses, delegated tasks, and calmed nerves. Xylo observed the controlled chaos, noting the trust and respect the team had for Mira. It was a different kind of efficiency, messy, human, but incredibly effective. The crisis was averted, and as the adrenaline faded, Mira slumped into a chair next to Xylo. That's life here, Xylo. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving together. Xylo felt a pang of something, respect, perhaps, or admiration. You're very good at what you do, Mira. She smiled wearily. Thanks, Xylo. It means a lot coming from you. As days turned into weeks, Xylo found himself accompanying Mira on various tasks, from routine maintenance to emergency drills. He met her friends, her family, and with each new connection, his understanding of humans deepened. One evening, as they watched the auroras dance across the sky through the clear dome of a viewing chamber, Mira turned to him. Xylo, why did you really come to Europa? It can't just be curiosity. Xylo looked at her, the northern lights casting ethereal patterns on her face. I was sent to assess human territories for potential use. Use? Myra's voice was sharp, her body tensing. Not by me, by my people, Xylo hastened to explain. But the more I learn about humans, the more I doubt the mission. Mira studied him, her gaze intense. What are you going to do, Xylo? I don't know, he confessed, feeling the weight of his duplicity like never before. You have to make a choice, Xylo, Mira said softly. Help us or be the reason we fall. Her words echoed in his mind long after their conversation. Xylo wrestled with his loyalties, his duty to his people, his newfound respect for humans. Finally, he made a decision. He would not be the harbinger of destruction for these people who had shown him nothing but kindness. He approached Mira the next day, resolve firm. "Mira, I want to help. Tell me what to do." Her relief was palpable, and together, they began planning. Xylo shared everything he knew about Signian strategies, their technology, their weaknesses. Together with Myra's knowledge of human ingenuity and resourcefulness, they crafted a defense strategy that played to human strengths. As the days passed, Xylo trained with the humans, learning their ways of warfare, their guerrilla tactics, their psychological maneuvers. He became a part of their world, fighting for a cause he had come to believe in. When the Signian fleet finally arrived, looming over Europa, Xylo stood shoulder to shoulder with Mira and her people, ready to defend the home he had come to cherish. The battle was fierce, the odds against them, but Xylo's insider knowledge and the human spirit proved a potent combination. Against all expectations, the humans prevailed. The Signians retreated, baffled and beaten. Xylo watched them go, a sense of triumph mingled with trepidation about his future. But Mira was right beside him, her hand on his arm. "Whatever comes next, Xylo, we'll face it together. You're one of us now." And for the first time in his life, Xylo felt truly at home. As the days dwindled down to the inevitable confrontation, Xylo and Mira worked tirelessly with the human defense forces, synthesizing the best of both worlds, Signian technology and human ingenuity. The tension was palpable, but so was the resolve in every soldier's eyes. Xylo stood before the assembly of human commanders, his figure now familiar in the war room. "The Signian fleet has advanced technologies, but they rely heavily on predictable strategies and centralized commands," he began, his voice steady. "Disrupt their command lines, and you disrupt their force." Mira nodded, stepping up beside him. "We've rigged the old mining tunnels on Deimos with explosives. When the Signians land, we'll give them a welcome they won't forget." The room buzzed with a mix of anxiety and adrenaline. Plans were laid out, contingencies discussed. Xylo's heart, a concept he had only understood academically before, now thumped with a very human fear and excitement. As they dispersed, General Harn, an imposing figure who had initially been skeptical of Xylo, clasped his shoulder. "You've done good, Xylo. I didn't think I'd ever trust a Signian, but you've proven yourself." Xylo managed a smile, grateful yet heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. The night before the battle, Xylo couldn't sleep. He wandered the base, ending up at the observation deck overlooking Earth. Mira found him there, gazing at the blue planet. "They say you never appreciate what you have until you're about to lose it," Xylo remarked quietly, without turning. Mira joined him at the railing. "We won't lose it, Xylo. Not without a fight." The next morning, alarms blared. The Signian fleet had entered Martian orbit sooner than anticipated. It was time. Xylo and Mira donned their battle gear, joining the troops in the shuttle bay. The air was thick with tension, but determination shone in every eye. As they boarded the shuttles, Xylo felt an unexpected hand on his. He looked down to see Mira, her gaze firm. "Together," she said simply, and he squeezed her hand in agreement. The shuttles launched, hurtling towards Deimos. Xylo's strategic mind raced through every possible scenario, but his newly awakened emotions feared for the lives around him, especially Myra's. Landing on Deimos was chaotic. The Signians had indeed landed, their troops fanning out across the surface. Xylo led a squad towards the tunnels, the thud of their boots muted against the soft regolith. Inside the tunnels, Xylo's knowledge of Signian tactics proved invaluable. "Set the charges now," he instructed, "and wait for my signal." As the Signians converged on their position, Xylo triggered the explosives. The tunnels shook violently, a deafening roar echoing as dust and debris filled the air. Screams and shouts from confused Signian soldiers rang out as the humans took advantage of the chaos, attacking with ferocity. The battle raged, Xylo and Mira always at the forefront. Xylo, armed with a stolen Signian blaster, fought with a desperation he had never known, driven not by orders or duty, but by a genuine desire to protect his new home. After hours of intense fighting, a retreat horn sounded. The Cygnians were pulling back, their numbers too diminished to continue the assault. Xylo let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. As the dust settled, Mira approached Xylo, her face smudged with dirt and blood, but alive. "We did it, Xylo," she breathed, her voice a mixture of disbelief and joy. "We did," Xylo agreed, allowing himself to feel the victory, the survival. Around them, human soldiers cheered, embracing each other in relief and triumph. In the aftermath, as they returned to the base, General Harn met them with news. "The Cygnian fleet is retreating across all fronts. Your strategies, Xylo, turned the tide." The human soldiers gathered around, their cheers now mingled with chants of Xylo's name. He looked around at the faces, grateful, alive, and felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. But it was Myra's face he sought, her approval he craved. When their eyes met, no words were necessary. They had saved Earth, together, and in that moment Xylo knew he had found more than just a new home. He had found a family, a purpose, a life worth fighting for. As celebrations erupted around him, Xylo realized the depth of his transformation. From a distant observer to a passionate defender, he had not only changed sides, he had changed his very nature. And as he stood there, among his new comrades, under the light of a distant sun, he knew this was where he was meant to be. The dust of battle settled over the scarred landscape of Deimos, the silence a stark contrast to the chaos that had reigned hours before. The human forces, battered but unbroken, gathered to survey the damage and count their blessings. Xylo stood among them, his alien features no longer the object of distrust, but of camaraderie and respect. "Xylo!" General Harn called out, his voice echoing slightly in the thin Martian atmosphere. He approached with a brisk stride, his face etched with fatigue but lit with victory. "Your plan worked. The Cygnians are retreating, and High Command is already talking about medals and commendations." Xylo nodded, the weight of his choices and their outcomes heavy on his shoulders. "Thank you, General. It was a collective effort." Mira joined them, her arm bandaged, but her spirit undimmed. "He's being modest," she chimed in, a playful spark in her eyes. Xylo turned the tide. "We wouldn't have stood a chance without his insight." Harn clapped Xylo on the back, a gesture of acceptance and appreciation. "Well, you're one of us now, whether you like it or not," he joked, but his tone bore the mark of sincerity. As the soldiers began to disperse, heading back to their quarters and duties, Xylo and Mira found themselves alone, standing on the rugged terrain of Deimos. The earth hung large and luminous in the sky, a silent witness to the events that had unfolded. Mira turned to Xylo, her expression serious. "What will you do now? The Cygnians won't take kindly to what you've done. You're exiled, a traitor to your kind." Xylo looked up at the earth, then back at Mira. "I suppose I am. But when I see what we've fought for, what we've preserved, I know it was the right choice. I want to stay, Mira, if you'll have me." Mira smiled, her hand reaching out to grasp his. "There's nothing I'd want more. But it's not just about staying, Xylo. You've started something here, something big. You can't just be a soldier anymore. You're a symbol now, a symbol of what we can achieve when we work together." Xylo considered her words, the truth of them ringing deep within him. "Then let's ensure it wasn't for nothing. Let's help build a bridge between our worlds. There's much the Cygnians and humans can learn from each other." "That's going to be a tough road, Xylo. There are wounds on both sides, and prejudices run deep," Mira cautioned, her grip tightening. "I know. But every journey begins with a step, and I believe this is worth the effort. Besides," Xylo added, a slight smile breaking through his solemn demeanor, "I've become quite fond of this planet and its people." Mira laughed, the sound mingling with the soft winds that swept across Deimos. "Then let's start walking that road. Together." In the weeks that followed, Xylo worked closely with Earth's leaders and the remnants of the Cygnian forces. Through diplomacy and shared knowledge, a tentative peace was forged. Xylo was at the forefront, his unique position as both a Cygnian and a hero of Earth making him an ideal mediator. The peace talks were held on the International Space Station, neutral territory orbiting the Earth. Xylo, alongside human delegates, sat across from the Cygnian commanders, their stark, angular features a reminder of what had been risked, and what had been gained. Peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, of law, of order, in short, of government, Xylo said, addressing the assembly. We have an opportunity here to create something new, something better than what we were heading towards. The Cygnian commander, General Kirill, met Xylo's gaze, his eyes cold but curious. And what role do you see for yourself in this new order, Xylo? You are no longer one of us, yet not fully one of them. Xylo's response was firm, his voice unwavering. I see myself as a bridge, General. One that can help span the divide between our cultures. We have much to learn from each other. I've seen the best and the worst of both, and I believe we're better together than apart. The talks continued long into the night, debates and discussions filling the station. Gradually, an agreement began to form, one that promised not just a cessation of hostilities, but a sharing of resources, technology, and cultures. As the treaty was signed, Xylo felt a sense of accomplishment, of purpose. He had defied his origins, changed his destiny, and perhaps, in some small way, changed the course of the galaxy. Standing beside Mira, watching Earth rotate slowly below them, Xylo knew he had found his place in the universe, not as a Cygnian, not as a human, but as a citizen of the stars, a man who had bridged worlds. And as the first Cygnian ambassador to Earth, Xylo was ready to help navigate the challenging yet hopeful path ahead, confident that together, they could face whatever the future held.